Hey guys, it's Matt. Just wanted to pop in. I'm not going to be able to get a chapter loaded till tomorrow morning. I used to do a lot more of these types of videos where I just talk about different topics. Nothing earth-shattering here, no super deep thoughts or something where we have to put all of our heads together in the comments, just a variety of different topics. And again, it's good for people to see who's behind the book and who's behind this YouTube channel if you don't know me. Although most of you do. I've been, I guess, on YouTube over two channels for roughly 7 or 8 years now. It's been that long. Amazing. And what a strange Jerry Garcia trip it's been. Are you kidding me? It's been beyond strange. Beyond strange. So let me just say a few things. One is I'll continue to say what I've mentioned before, that this truth community is incredibly infiltrated, more so than most people can comprehend, in my opinion. So I'm not going to name names or anything like that, but I just want to give you a sense of where I'm at from my skepticism in terms of when I watch YouTube videos in our community. So if I watch 100 channels over the course of a month, and I'm just picking 100 so you can see the percentages that I'm talking about, 90% of what I watch, or 90% of the channels, I will have my skeptic glasses on. Meaning, I'll say, this is interesting, or much of this resonates with me, but is this pulling me in a direction that the system would want me pulled in? See what I'm saying? The greatest truth, or the greatest, not the greatest truth, just the opposite. The greatest manipulation presents a ton of truth. Okay, we know that. And then right at the last moment will steer you into the room over here you're not supposed to be in, instead of getting to where you're really supposed to be. So the greatest manipulation delivers the most truth. So I'm just saying, I just want to put out that 90% of what I watch, I might even enjoy, very much enjoy what I'm watching, but I have these skeptic glasses on, metaphorically, and I'm going, this just, I don't know, this channel seems so polished, or what is the intention here? Or the intention could be to deliver months of truth, and then once people are sucked in, at the last stage, move in the wrong direction. So only about 10% of what I watch, I basically let my guard down. And I'm not going to mention names or anything like that. It's just the general message that, my message is 90% keep the glasses on. And yeah, how many people are barking at me right now saying, well, you could be. Yeah, fine. Great. You keep your skeptic glasses on for me. Wonderful. I mean, people, but that doesn't mean, even if there's a channel that you're highly skeptical of, it doesn't mean you shouldn't watch. And Jordan Maxwell has always been a great example of this in me dealing with people that have commented here over the years. Over the years, many times, I've mentioned Jordan Maxwell. And I'm sure somebody's typing right now, like, we've been down this road. All right, as I've said, I didn't just fall off the turnip truck here. We've been going down these routes a long time. And, obviously, in pursuing what we call truth for almost 10 years, you're going to come across Jordan Maxwell, obviously. And people will be pointing out to me, like, again, like I'm going to be misled in this area. Like I'm not going to be able to trust my own discernment in this area. That, oh, Jordan Maxwell's a high-level Freemason, or Jordan Maxwell's this, or Jordan Maxwell's that. And what I've come back and to what I've said to them applies. You could apply this yourself. Is just saying, I don't care who Jordan Maxwell is, even if what you're saying is correct, because I'm adult enough and competent enough and smart enough to pull the pieces of truth that resonate with me, resonate with my inner knowing and my inner tuning fork. And if something's bullshit, I'm confident enough in myself to say, Jordan, that's bullshit. And I'm not going to take that nugget in. So I go back to these commenters that have said this to me over the years, like they're informing me that Jordan Maxwell's this or that. I don't care, and this is just an example. I'm using Jordan Maxwell as an example that it can be applied 1,000 times over. I don't care who he is. Because, for one, I know even if it is a manipulation, the greatest manipulation delivers the most truth. And are we confident in ourselves to pick out the pieces we want? So, see what I'm saying? That's obvious. Okay, that's obvious. So if it resonates, who cares who the person is? Okay. If you want to, anybody new, keep your skeptic glasses on for this channel. Why shouldn't you? Everybody should. But if you've been, I've been doing this for, I don't even remember when the Texas Shrug channel started. It might be 7 or 8 years ago. But at some point, somebody, if you know me going back 6, 7, 8 years, and if you know me to have paid my dues, at some point you might want to relax. If you're here for just a year or two, well, keep your skeptical glasses on with this channel. That's wonderful. That's great advice for everybody. But I grew up in this truth community, analyzing and breaking down the fake events, the fake bang bang events, the shootings, going back to the big one in 2012. And I mean, I was right there on the front lines breaking down the events. We would present clips right from the news, things that would get the videos banned today, get the channel banned today. We could present with no harassment from YouTube. There was no problem in 2012, 13, 14, 15, even probably part of 16. We would just pull the clips and break it down. And that is, we all arrive here from different places. We're all standing maybe in the middle of the maze. We come from different places. That's where I came from. These ridiculous events presented on the news. Other people might have investigated Area 51 and aliens, and I don't know much about that. I really don't, and I don't. There's it's just something that hasn't interested me as much, and there's only so many things, or there's so many places we can put our attention and focus. So we're all here kind of in the foxhole together, coming from different places. And my fascination has always been, and this does relate to the fake events presented on the news, it's always been the control structure. This has always been my fascination. Not does Area 51 really have bodies of aliens or what crashed there. That doesn't interest me. It really doesn't. And it even interests me less now because I don't think anybody can go anywhere. Okay, I don't think a starship can come light years away and fly in like the first visitation from the planet Vulcan in First Contact, Star Trek. I think could be entities here, but it'd be more of an interdimensional thing. Portals that not flying in from outer space or anything like that. So that hasn't interested me. My interest has been, just looking at, okay, Dick Cheney certainly seems or appears to be that buffoon George H.W. Bush's handler. Whether maybe it is possible that George W. Bush was actually smarter. Very possible he was smarter than the role that he played. Played the buffoon. That was his role. No doubt about it. Whether he played it easily as he was a buffoon or he was a lot smarter. That was his role. And Dick Cheney was, you could say, in my opinion, more going in and out of whatever is in that back room. We've talked about many times. There's no reason to ponder what's in the back room. We'll never find it. It probably doesn't even exist. It will never show itself. Whatever is in the creepy back room where Jared Kushner serves tea and crimpets. This is some sort of reality generation realm, and so there is no Legion of Doom bad guys sitting around planning. There is no Doctor Evil, in an underground lair somewhere. I just don't think that exists. Because there's too many bad guys they've presented to us over the years that lead us in too many different directions, and all have their own merit, and we're not closer to finding even one of them. So it is like the Satan archetype. Okay, that whatever it's doing to us is certainly similar to the Satan archetype. But there's probably, if you found the last curtain and pulled it away, there's nothing there, in my opinion. It's the nature of this realm itself. Um, so it's misleading to say, who did Dick Cheney go off and report to? You know, it's just things about reality like this we don't understand right now. But I'm saying the point is that's always been my fascination. Like thinking before I came to the what I call an understanding that is just the nature of the whole realm is the endless breadcrumbs and rabbit holes and trying to look for who's behind the curtain. And there is no boss level. I've said that there's likely no boss level, like a video game has that final boss battle. And it's probably the nature of this realm where there is nobody here. But did I know that 5 years ago or 7 or 8 years? No, of course. It's like, well, who, in the endless pursuit of who done it or who does Dick Cheney report to? And I'm just saying, I'm talking about this because this has always been my fascination. Well, yeah, it does make sense that there's these this Rothschild money and Rockefeller money and people that old names like Warburg and Vanderbilt and Harriman and names that people that these families could easily have trillions or $1 trillion, and it makes sense. Yeah, these are the power, but that's first grade conspiracy, in my opinion, at this point. People that would just say, yeah, they're these old men that get in, the trillionaires that get together in the back room that make an appearance at Bilderberg and they really control everything and that's it. And that's to me, that's first grade conspiracy. And the reason it's first grade, not that there implies there's, Matt, are you implying there's 11 other grades and 11 other levels of control in people? It's not people. It's not, it's to understand that it's the nature of this reality itself to generate this endless bullshit onto us without us ever being able to point to exactly where it's coming from. It's like following a river, and then here's the tributary, and it's got to have a source. It's got to have an underground source. It's like following a river forever. You just for your whole life, you just keep going around bends and turns and tributaries. There's no source. It's a fractal, that type of thing, like a never-ending fractal of Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole bullshit. That's what it throws at us. So once we see that, then we can do, what we're hopefully beginning to do now and go, I'm not looking for the source of the river anymore, where the Fiji spring comes from. I don't give a shit. I don't do this anymore. So that's kind of where we are, what we're hopefully evolving into. So if I said, I'm skeptical of many YouTube channels, there's tons and tons of channels that presenting truth and still, breaking down the fraud of the world that's presented to us. Oh God, did I make some sort of a hand symbol? If I ever put my hands together, my goodness. Breaking down the fraud, again, these channels, you say, well, they're probably on our side, but, they're not evolving. Again, I broke down the fake events for 5 or 6 or 7 years. But, are they not evolving because they're not evolving? Some of these channels? Or it would be the role of the graduated animal farmer to keep truthers in that pen. Okay, that's why many channels, I will acknowledge, these people really open my eyes to many things. But many are still doing the same thing they've always done. And you would say, is that because they're not evolving, or are they a graduated animal farmer to keep truthers in that locked pen? And I'm sure, again, heading off objections, people are saying, I'm doing that now. I'm only doing that now via, this is the book that I'm trying to get this book out. So there's still a ton of fraud I'm still presenting because it's part of the book. It's been laid down as a chapter in the book. If I was just a YouTube channel, no, I wouldn't be breaking down. I don't break down the bang bang events anymore. I don't do it. I don't. It's in their nature to fake these events. So why do I need to look at the next one? My default is going to be it's fake. I'm sure, a lot of them coming forward will probably be real because, I was talking to my buddy Greg about this. I don't know if he came up with this or I came up with this, but we instantly agreed. I think he did. It's a priming of the pump. So some of the events going forward and the shootings could be or completely could be completely real. But when you've delivered nonstop news for going on 10 years now about all these school shootings, and it's priming of the pump where you're going to get a lot of deranged individuals to get the idea to go do it themselves. In my opinion, I believe they underestimated. In other words, they probably thought they could prime the pump in just 2 or 3 years, where everybody that was a little off would just be following along, or copycat. That's, I think, the reason they talk about copycat in the system, copycat shooters or copycat demented individuals, because they're propagating what they want. They're propagating out through the media that they want the copycat. I think they're surprised that they still have to pull off all the fake stuff. And they're going, my goodness, how many times do we have to fake this before people actually start doing it? Um, it gets, it gets, it is an insight into the way they manipulate us to mold reality for them, in my opinion. So ultimately, we always have to screw ourselves. Ultimately, we have to do it to ourselves. So, fake event, and then will these bang bang events become real, and we'll start doing it to ourselves, and then there'll be more copycats, and I think they're way behind schedule on that from what they probably expected. But the other area of that, and this is indicative to, I think, how all of reality works, is that you go back to the creepy Ray Kurzweil example I've talked about several times. It's fascinating because if I'm right about this, it could be an insight as to how they use us to manipulate reality. So just to make a really long story short, 30 seconds for anybody that's not familiar, but Ray Kurzweil has this title at Google called like head futurist or lead futurist or whatever the hell that is. If you look into it, well, it's about putting a chip in your brain, and ultimately their goal to put a chip in the brain or to upload consciousness or download consciousness into some computer so you could live forever. Just different forms of what they call transhumanism. So I've talked about this, but it does relate to what I was just talking about. So another 30 seconds of background. So Ray Kurzweil, for a video years ago, I'm watching all of his speeches. Not all of them, but I watched a ton of his speeches. And I'm going, he's giving the same canned lines in the speeches. And I guess I might have even mentioned this recently in one of my chapters, but it's so fascinating, it's worth going over again, really, guys. This is if we're right about this is a window into reality, if we're right. So Ray Kurzweil delivering the same lines, and then he goes off to Stanford and talks about downloading consciousness or putting a chip in the brain. Then he goes off to MIT, and you might say, well, yeah, if he's giving speeches all over the country to push this, well, yeah, he kind of memorized his speech. He's giving the same lines. Okay, not really, but I'll give you that. But also, when the audience would ask questions, he had a canned way of answering them. And look, if you're the lead person in the world on anything, okay, he's supposed to be the lead person in the world, the head futurist at Google. Do you really need canned answers? Don't you know your stuff well enough where you could just take the question from the young man or young lady in the audience and just answer, and you would answer in a different way? Where I've talked about these topics, how many times? Many of these topics. But have you ever heard me give canned responses? I know this stuff. Not when I'm speculating on how reality works here, but in terms of asking me how something went down on 9/11, for example. Put me up in front of an audience. I'm not going to give a canned response. I know my stuff in these areas. Or breaking down certain fake events. I'm not going to need to research it or study anything. So the point is, let me get right to the point. The point is, I thought, well, they don't have any of this stuff done potentially. They don't have he would present it like they're on stage 10, but I think they're barely on stage 1 in terms of chipping the brain or downloading consciousness. I think he's out trying to do what we would call like the quantum effect. He's out talking about it in many different places. He's doing magazine interviews and television interviews. He even did an interview, I remember way back when, with Glenn Beck on the Glenn Beck program, I think when he was on Fox. So this guy's role is he goes all around talking about this transhumanism. But to me, it's like a quantum priming of the pump. See, and again, this is extremely important. If I've hit on this, I don't know. I'm just saying I get the sense this could be what they're doing. People watching in the audience at Stanford, here comes Ray Kurzweil. He talks about chipping the brain, and won't it be great? You'll be able to pull every major league batter statistics up without just accessing the cloud, and you'll never need a smartphone again, and blah, blah. Won't it be great? And all the potentially quantum creator, real human beings with real spirits, not NPCs, real creative human beings in the audience, believe, Ray, that they're close to getting this done and believe that it's a good thing. Of course, everybody at the TED Talks, all those types of people love all this crap, Stanford and MIT. So by everybody believing it, are they manifesting it in some way? And most people that watch this channel do. We like these topics. We see that there's a lot of truth in this, but it does trigger. It does trigger 10 to 20% that they don't like these way out reality manifestation, and I don't like it when it gets too foo-foo-y either, or whatever you want to call it, like, go out and people that jump out of bed and can't wait to go create their own reality. And I'm not there yet. Okay, I'm not there yet, but I do sense. See, I'm becoming more like that because I can see what the creatures do to manipulate us. If we weren't a powerful group, okay, then I've talked about several times. The main reason we know we are extremely powerful, immortal spirit and soul, is because the creatures are just constantly trying to mess with us. They're so concerned with us. Everything they do is about manipulating us and getting us to do this and getting us to accept that and planting little breadcrumbs so we chase it. If we were just these rotting meat suits that are just going into the ground, as the atheists tell us, then they wouldn't give a shit about us. It's just the opposite. It's beyond giving a shit. It's all they're fixated on us. So it tells you who you are because you can look at the actions of the creatures, and a lot of the truth is revealed in their own actions. So they send a Ray Kurzweil out. He convinces every live audience that they're so close to chipping people, and it's a wonderful thing. And then people potentially, per like 100 monkeys, they potentially start manifesting it into reality. I believe that's on the table. Because I don't know how that stuff works, but I can observe the creatures. I can observe that. Why would Ray Kurzweil be delivering canned lines, speech after speech, canned ways of answering questions? Like I said, if you're the top guy, you just answer the question. If somebody asked me to give a lecture, I wish like Villanova University down in Villanova here, I'm outside of Philadelphia. Well, wouldn't I love for them to? We'd like someone to really give a presentation and tell us what really happened on 9/11. Oh yeah, I'll be right there. You think I'd prepare a note? Do you think I'd have like cue cards or like index cards I'd need to refer to? No, I would just stand up and say, anybody want to talk about those 19 hijackers? I wouldn't need to prepare. Why does Ray Kurzweil? Because it's canned and it's scripted. And I think this guy doesn't really know his stuff. He created some Casio keyboard special effects in the late 70s. This guy doesn't know jack shit about chipping the brain. He's a sock puppet spokesperson who had a name, and maybe that was his reward. The system is rewarding him. He just flies around the country, goes and gives these speeches about transhumanism, and he has the room service on the American Express American Express Platinum Black Card that he never sees the bill. It just goes right to Google, and he can put his, he can go see the local happy ending specialist and get jacked off, and it's a wonderful life for Ray. Just goes around giving the same canned bullshit, and they're trying to do 100 monkeys here. I thought they're trying to do 100 monkeys. If they figure from their perspective, they can get enough of us still reality generation machines, but now we're dumbed down and we believe and we just bow down to the system. They get enough of us believing this bullshit's a good thing, then will 100 monkeys manifest it. And that shit's been proven over and over. Like rats in Tokyo learn how to do something. They learn how to pull a lever to get a piece of cheese drops down on their head so they can eat the cheese. And then they notice that rats, and they try to do the same thing in New York. The rats in New York in the lab learn a lot quicker when it's already been documented that rats somewhere else knew it. And this goes with human invention. And I can't tell you how many times I've thought of an idea. Like I used to be, when I got out of Penn State Business School and I was working for a big insurance company in the 90s. And it was like, I felt trapped in the big. You think I did well inside of a big bureaucracy? People telling me what to do, and that didn't work out too well. But luckily I would go sell products and I would just make my sales calls, and they mostly left me alone as long as you made your goals. You had to keep making your goals. And then the ball would drop, and Dick Clark would say, "Well, every New Year," and then your goal would you go back to zero, and you'd have to have all that stress would start again. You have to make your goal. But they generally left me alone because I made my goal. But I was very entrepreneurial because I was like, I wanted a way out. And it seems like every time I came up with something like this would work, I would like research it, and it would be like a few months before somebody just invented that. And I'm not an inventor. I don't know anything about electrical engineering or putting a motor together. That it would be more like how to deliver a certain service in a certain way. And it would be like every time I thought of something, oh, it was just started up a few months before. So we all have that 100 monkeys thing going on, and some people believe that we are there's an individual consciousness, but we're also tapped into, and this doesn't imply Borg or anything. We're all potentially tapped into a collective consciousness, and that at least that collective consciousness has a reality generation element to it. There's a lot of people, very smart people, believe that nothing of this would exist. The whole realm needs collective reality generation consciousness to create it. And whether you totally believe in double slit experiment or call that a hoax, or it doesn't matter. There's tremendous evidence, no matter what, that proves collectively we shape our reality. And it's most easily given away because of how manipulative these creatures of the system are in getting us to move a certain way. They play the Pied Piper. Ray Kurzweil pops up as the Pied Piper, pops up on his stage with his pants down. Oh boy, did I just put that in your head, right? And he plays his flute, he plays his pan flute as Pied Piper, and he wants to move us in a certain direction. Because like we've said, in most of these areas, it seems like they just can't do it themselves. So they have become masters, and it's just, the proof is in the pudding. The sick system that they've created, the proof is in the pudding, and ultimately we've created it and brought it upon ourselves because people just bow down to this control system. And a few of us, people watching, a few of us can see right through it. And we're just marveled as to how nobody around us can see it. And like I've emphasized or stressed many times, it's not like they don't want to see it. It's not like they just want to protect their worldview. I believe in literal veils. I've been through it recently with a friend of mine. And this friend knows the things that I'm, quote, into and the research I do, and never comes around. This person I've mentioned several times on this channel before, just an absolute creature of the Matrix, has their head in their phone all the time. I mean, Facebook all the time. Ding, ding, ding. The phone dings and jingles, and I'm like screaming, put the phone down. And to me, it's almost like this is the first step of transhumanism. How the phone just dominates this person's life, completely dominates. So I put some clips together, and it was about that fraud in Virginia. That fake event at the news station, and I've put these clips together, and unfortunately I can't show it on YouTube anymore. But I've looked at it so many times I was able to put all the clips together where it's just obvious he's reading from a script. The one that the father delivers, Andy, delivers. He says it in 5 different interviews. I pulled all the clips. Here's one with Anderson Cooper. Here's one with someone else at CNN. Here's one with Fox. And he says, Andy, the father, the fake father of the fake deceased with a fake boyfriend, who says, just a crazy man who got a gun. And he says that in 5 different interviews, and he says it in the exact same way. So I pulled all the clips together. And in one he actually interrupts Chris. He says, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Chris. Megan was just a crazy man who got a gun. He says he's a bad actor. So I pulled all those clips, and then I pulled all the clips of the she made me this photo album, and she created pictures of us. I'm not going to get that. And I put it all together, and he says it in 5 different interviews, and he pulls his photo album out. She created this photo album, and look what she did creating these pictures. He says it the same way. So I put all this together, and I showed it to this person, and they do admit initially, they admit that it really seems suspect. But then it's like what people that are Mandela affected, what we call the download, takes over. The download takes over these people, and they start making excuses for reality as it's presented to us. They start saying, "But Matt, look, you don't know. Everybody succumbs to grief and loss in a different way." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like they took the download, or you're taking the download. You're following the script of reality. Your veil just tightened up on your head without you even knowing it." And then the same excuses keep coming that, well, he because there was so much grief, they might have wanted to do all those interviews and talk about it. Like, who would do 14 interviews a day or two after the death? The body's still warm at the morgue, and 14 interviews have been done? I think if anything was real, they would have said, "No, I'm sorry, CNN. Let us bury the body first." So, but these people draw forth. It's like they take the download. It's worse than veils. Veils implies there's just something there, you just can't see it, like Harry Potter standing under that veil of a cloak where people are mulling around. He's invisible. Nobody can see him. He's under the veil. A veil implies you just can't see it. But it's more than that. It's literally like a firmware update of where those interested in the Mandela effect talk about getting the download, saying, "Yeah, I can see that potentially changed," and then my friend saying a minute later, I'm going to change my answer. It's always been the other way. I don't. Whatever I said, I take it back. They get a download, and it works with these truth scenarios as well, as they pull forth the same scripts. So getting through to anybody is just, it's almost not even worth trying anymore. You can let people politely know how you feel about certain things and what your interests are. We say shine your light, carry yourself with confidence. And if they ever get an inkling, they'll come seek you out. But we know now, you can never, ever, ever, ever push these issues onto anybody. Because whatever veil or mask they wear, however these creatures have worked reality out, they'll tighten the mask or the veil on the person immediately. And they'll start spitting out the same script, regarding Robbie. Well, I know it's odd, Matt, he's not crying, but people react differently to grief. Do you know how many times I've heard somebody say in response to that one event, people potentially react differently to grief? No, they don't. When their little ones are killed the day before, they cry all night and then they cry for years. They don't act differently. What if he went on a comedy, became a stand up comedian the next day and went on a comedy world tour? Would that be an acceptable way people respond to grief? No, it's just they parrot back the script. So it's like it's just beyond veils. It's some sort of mind control that's related to some firmware update, almost. And I've talked about many times one of the main goals of this reality construct may be, well, we know this. We know it is to convince all of us, uh, whoever here that are real spirited beings, to convince us that what we are is the ego and the body, and that's all or basically it. We know its main goal is to do that. Just to the whole society is constructed so we are convinced we are the ego and the body, and the ego is kind of a slave many times to the body because the ego wants to have ripped abs, and the ego will seek out the bad junk food, and the ego will run around town all night looking for the sex act. But it's convinced most people that's all you are. And one of the main life goals, in my opinion, is to whatever connections we still have to another aspect of ourselves, immortal selves, what some people call higher self. Oh, that's new age. Whatever. People we're in this truth community. We're scripted to download that, to spit that out. Or anything related to new age has to be bad. Whatever. No, we all operate and want to parrot out the scripts. That has to stop. Every no matter what it is, there you can take good things away from it. Everything has merit. So what I was saying was one of the main goals of this the screen around us, the Sixth Society, and the reality generation machine that's here that operates like the Satan archetype is to cut strings, to separate whatever ties that this avatar has with higher self, with another aspect of ourself. That consciousness is likely not in the body; it's somewhere else. Uh, Immortal aspects of yourself, maybe there's something in the body, but in my opinion, most of it or the core essence of it is somewhere else, and it wants to cut ties. That's what this reality is set up to do, in my opinion, to cut ties. So maybe, when I was in my late 20s and, again, working for the big insurance company, and all I cared about, again, was getting the ripped abs and trying to find the sex act. And the reality generation machine here goes, ooh, this guy's on the right path. Look how many ties we've cut. And it wants to just keep cutting, where we're now all on the path, or the people here, we're on a path of restoring those connections, bringing those connections back in, letting those connections guide what we call the rest of our lifetime here, restoring the connections, versus it's just damage control and saying, well, I'm not going to let them cut off anymore, and then I'm going to try to tether them back together. So, and that of course starts with you really define yourself as ego and the body, so that the famous line, again, almost everything that has significance in this reality is a truth drop in some way or another. So why do we know that famous line? I have seen the enemy, and he is us. Something like that. If you look it up, a lot of bullcrap in terms of researching it on YouTube. It'll lead you to a comic strip that supposedly made it famous, but then that it came from Admiral Perry or something on the Lake Erie or Lake Superior during the War of 1812, something related back to the War of 1812. It's very hard to research on Google, YouTube, and it's a truth drop in my opinion, and they want to muddy the waters a bit. So I've seen the what do I mean? I've seen the enemy, and he is us. We know that, or he is me, or whatever it is. The truth drop is potentially the enemy is me, Matt, or whatever what I think of as of Matt, or what you think of as you is a societal construct. What I think of as me is a societal construct, and not only we have to go to war with ourselves and our we have to understand that what's really driving the truck in terms of this avatar, what's really flying the plane. Put ego back in the back seat, in the child seat, and strap it in. The body shouldn't be driving the car either. It should be a symbiotic, friendly relationship with the avatar body. Um, the avatar body exists in this realm. It's going to be most interested in this realm. It's not going to give a shit about you connecting with higher immortal self and all that stuff. It's not going to go along with for that ride. The body's not going. I don't think the body necessarily is going to be a saboteur in that area, but maybe for some people it is. So it's a friendly symbiotic relationship with the avatar body. And hey body, I'm gonna treat you well. You treat me well, I'm gonna treat you well. I'm gonna get you some good food tonight, big guy. I'm gonna get you some good food. Oh, what's this? A hand symbol? That must be a hand symbol of some kind. Yeah, yeah. Just it doesn't matter what truth is delivered. You do something strange with your hands. Just make sure you throw out everything that was said. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sensitive to that. I've put up with that bullcrap for so long. It's the one thing that does kind of irritate me. All the trolls just heard that, so they're going to be all the trolls are going. I just gave the trolls fresh meat that they can latch on to. Great. I'll know exactly where to find those comments and exactly what comments to remove from the channel, or what YouTube channels to remove from this channel. So go ahead, trolls. That would be great if you can point yourselves out. But anyway, guys, how long have I been going? 40 some minutes. Well, let me just continue. I have this book in my hands, and I was gonna, this great book reading program that we had in 10th and 11th and 12th grade in my high school here in Pennsylvania. I saved these little snippets of the great works: Shakespeare, Aristotle, not Plato. But so I pulled them out, keep them in the bathroom. I'm gonna read them here and there, to see, and with a new set of eyes. That's the whole point, the new perspective. Reading, I'll talk about some things that I've read in some of these books where I'm reading it now with a new set of eyes. And I'm going, that's total bullshit. I mean, I'm reading it going, I think this person's a construct of the system. I'm not going to get into that now, but just the one here is Aristotle on happiness, it's called. The ultimate goal of man is happiness. Everything, every pursuit of man. They just say of man, representing man and woman. Every pursuit of man, of virtue and to better ourselves, is not an end in of itself, like the pursuit of being a good harpist, but it's to provide happiness. So basically, what he's saying is, and basically what he's saying is, all roads of everything we do lead to that one final behind the curtain. Is everything's is for happiness. That's what everything, all roads lead. And if people that have said, first of all, let me just say, as I'm reading this, we're so skeptical of things that the first thing that pops into my mind is, what are the chances that people like Aristotle and Plato, not Play-Doh, Plato. I think Plato was the more famous one, at least when I was a kid. Socrates. Are these people even real? Are they complete constructs of the system to deliver truth and philosophy, but also manipulation? So the greatest minds are going to deliver truth, but also, because you bow down to them, we bow down to them. The whole society, everything Aristotle ever said is so brilliant, and Plato is so brilliant, that there could be big time manipulation in there as well. I always keep on the table that this is some sort of, uh, it's a dream mated with a video game. This reality is a dream mated with a video game, which goes along with hologram simulation. And I know that triggers a lot of people for some reason. But for those that are triggered, would say, well, yeah, Matt, the manipulation in Plato was the allegory of the cave. What a coincidence, Matt, that Plato was the first one who pondered, the first one in writing who pondered that this is all some sort of illusion. Plato's allegory of the cave. Meant to mislead, Matt. Maybe. I keep it on the table. But what I'm saying is these people could be complete constructs. Um, Now, that would have been crazy to me 5 years ago. Now, I mean, made up constructs of the system, Plato, Socrates, I put it at 1 in 4, 1 in 5, 1 in 4 chance, just completely made up constructs. It's a little bit ignorant for me to say that because I have not researched it thoroughly enough to really say that. It's just, this is complete gut feeling. But what does that even mean, research it? Research it where? So that's a Google, YouTube, Wikipedia research. What's that going to do for me? The, I'm gonna try to figure out what this tainted topic is all about by researching it with these tainted research tools. What's that going to do? Unless I go to try to find the ancient pamphlets and return to Greece myself. How do you research anything anymore? Because the research is effed over, is completely bastardized and adulterated and screwed up. So where are you going to go for your research? The Library of Congress? See what I'm saying? So ultimately what we have is just inner knowing, inner tuning, for gut feeling, which is the greatest truth and wisdom there is anyway. I mean, that when you have it tapped into it right, when you're reading the Matrix code right, it'll tell you anything you need to know. Not exactly like what's the best way to directions to a Mexican restaurant or something like that. But no, it'll tell you like, is this YouTube channel manipulating me? Like if you come across, if you really get in touch with inner knowing, or looking at the fake reality as is presented to us, like the moon mission or something. You don't have to break down whether the shadows are real, and you don't have to look at it scientifically. You just watch some of the videos of these clowns hopping around on the moon and singing songs and bouncing around, and they can never do anything normally on Apollo missions. If you were on the moon, you would be like the wonder of it. If you just pause and just think for a few seconds, like look around what it would be like. I'm going to scratch my nose because this isn't a hand symbol. Guys, I'm so sensitive to that. Seriously, don't even joke in the comments. I won't finish the comment. Like if you say and I'll just delete the channel. I can't deal with it. Don't even joke. But if you're on the moon, the wonder of it. I mean, it would be if you could just allow yourself to picture if that. I don't think the moon is what they say it is. I don't think it's some rock floating around the earth. But if it was, it would, the wonder of it, they wouldn't be jumping or bouncing around and whatever they're doing, falling down and singing songs, and it's absurd. And you can, even with a broken inner tuning fork, you can look at that and just, this is bullshit. You'd be like, the wonder and awe of it would be just beyond anything you could imagine if it was real. And they're like, the merry, merry month of May, and the guy says December, and they're talking and bouncing around, and like, my inner tuning fork is freaking flat busted, and I can see that these clowns, nobody was on the moon. So the inner knowing tells you everything you need to know. We're going to go research if anybody went to the moon. What would research do for me there? Just lead me to a bunch of NASA and JPL sites? That'd be great for me determining. Just look at it and say this is bullshit. Just let every cell in your body say that's real. Or no, that kid sitting with that MSNBC host didn't just get a shot in the back of the neck, in the head, she says. And he's one day out of the hospital. That kid who had the same name of where the Vatican is in London, his first name, redheaded kid. And the MSNBC host says, so, yesterday you were shot in the head and you have an entry wound and an exit wound. And he's like moving his neck around. Yeah, here's the exit wound. Here's the exit room, the entry room. Why can't I say that? The exit wound and the entry wound. He's like moving his head around. It's like, oh, if any of that was real, I've had stiff necks from like a pinched nerve, or I don't know. Used to call it like getting a cold in your neck, where I couldn't even like move my neck. It was so like a spasm. It was so painful. I couldn't even get out of bed. And this guy got, he just got out of bed, or he just got out of the hospital, and he's like, "Yeah, here's the exit wound and the entry." He's moving his head around, and she actually says, she doesn't say he was even shot in the neck. She announces to the audience he was shot in the head. How they present that to people and how people don't see it, how people can just, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. It's almost to me like a veil checker. They'll say, "Yeah, we floated that kid out, and only a small group of truthers noticed." So the veils are working really well. It's almost like what they can put out now can be so just completely absurd and nonsensical, because the veils people wear are so tightly screwed on that people, no matter what it is, they just can't see it. That's why it's almost pointless to ever try to wake anybody up. Just pointless, unless they come to you and start asking questions, and you get a sense they want to know certain things. But in terms of the book, I mean, these people could be complete constructs, and I'm reading on happiness, and one of the things I thought, it's a big topic, and I shouldn't be introducing it now because I got to wind this up, but there's a lot of truth. If these are constructs of the system, like Socrates, there's going to be tons of truth laid down in these writings in addition to manipulation. And I was reading on happiness and going, where he came forth, or Aristotle came forth and said, um, you know, uh, every part of a man has a function. A thumb has a function, a wrist has a function, a fingers have a function, a leg has a function. So you could have mobility. The eyes have a function. Why are we to believe all of man, does not have a function? And he basically goes on and says, well, people just live their life, and it gets to mankind realizing that, yeah, what is my purpose here? What is my function? But then I thought, it's called On Happiness, and I thought, and this is a huge topic, and I don't mean to mislead anybody here, and I don't have any sense of whether this is correct or not. If it's something big like this and I think of it, I'm just going to share it with you. But maybe, this writing is called On Happiness. Could that be the truth drop? I mean, we're constantly conditioned that if we in this, let me just stop. We in this community are, more than anyone else, try to figure out what is our life purpose. What is the purpose of this lifetime? What are we here to do? How are we here to improve ourselves, our immortal spirit? But I thought, I was reading Aristotle on happiness, and I thought, well, what does this whole realm condition us to believe? That we're here to suffer. Even remember Opus Dei and the Da Vinci Code. He just, every time he goes back to his hotel room, he pulls out those chains and whips, and he whips himself, and that's part of his devotion to God, to suffering. And we are all led to believe just it's all about suffering. We just have to keep suffering here, figure it out, and we can avoid not getting recycled back here, not coming back. It's all about suffering. Obviously, everything in our whole lives, this realm is about suffering, from religion, everything. And I thought, is he dropping truth here on happiness? Meaning, it's no matter how bad it is he dropping truth that we have to figure out in this life how to be happy with ourselves? And I don't, and in the right way, of course, not letting the ego and the body take over, so we can just roam around the city every night looking for hetero and homo sex acts. That some in a sick way, some people would define that, if you get enough of it, happiness. Well, we know that's sick. That's not happiness. So is he saying, in the right way, if you can find happiness despite the suffering, is that one of the major life goals or tests? And that's hard for a lot of people. Like my buddy Greg is suffering with it, with the fibromyalgia and certain complications related to that right now. So you think, if somebody is in even in a physical pain, how is it fair to say potentially one of the life goals is to find happiness. And I don't know. I'm just saying potentially is this a truth drop? I don't know. But Aristotle on happiness, and first thing I start thinking is where's the truth drop? That's the way I look at things anymore. Maybe could be completely wrong. But if Aristotle is a cooked up figure, then these works are used as truth drops and manipulations at the same time. See, there's which way are you going to go? Are you going to latch onto the manipulation or find the truth in it? Of course, I mean a lot of this is total bullcrap. In the beginning, he talks about, of course, Aristotle is the worst one of Plato, Socrates. He's big on politics. The most virtuous course of life he'll talk about is service to the state. Come on, come on, service to the state. Hey Aristotle, if you could see what the state would become, and didn't they put your man Socrates to death for just talking to kids? I mean, the state's a sick, freaking satanic system. So anybody like Aristotle that bows down says it's most virtuous to pursue the in service of the state is most virtuous, and then secondarily service to thyself, but after service to the state. Anybody that would say that is a jack off in my book. I don't care who it is, Aristotle, whoever. Sorry, buddy. You don't. If you're going to tell me right off the front that service to the state is most virtuous, you're a jack off. You don't know shit. I don't care how smart people say you are. But let me read for the truth drop. Okay, on happiness. Oh, okay. Well, is it? So we're always talking about the life tests. Is a major life test to actually find happiness no matter what the suffering is. And that doesn't resonate with Greg right now and people that are truly physically suffering. And there are other ways to suffer. But in terms of no matter how bad the situation is, the first step towards coming back to happiness, or at least getting in touch with it, is what Levet talks about: gratitude, just constant gratitude. If your life's getting fucked over 9 ways out of 10, then just latch onto that 1 way out of 10 where gratitude. In terms of what I've told you about putting in job applications and things like, I'm at what I would call war with the matrix. I can't pass an HR background check, and I never will probably for the rest of my life. But gratitude, I've been relatively healthy for the last 5 years, and I can get out of bed in the morning with very little pain. At my age, I'm in my late 40s, and I try to have gratitude to that. That's not going to resonate with my buddy Greg, who's really suffering right now. But maybe we're all getting screwed over. Maybe what's his 1 out of 10 that he can grab onto, and that is the first step. Appreciation of whatever is in your life that's still worth appreciating. And Levet talks about this also. Her life changed when she just started appreciating everything around her all the time. And there's something to that. But that is the first step in at least trying to approach a happy life, even if things are pretty screwed up. And they're pretty screwed up for a lot of us right now, no doubt about it. But I just said, is that a potential truth drop in Aristotle's On Happiness? And when you read that sort of crap, read it like there's going to be a manipulation, and read it like there's going to be a truth drop that we can use to help us on our life test. So, didn't I start this video saying it would just be a bunch of nonsense? I don't know. Sometimes just get going. Anyway, Saturday night, guys. I figured, if you're like me, there ain't Hollywood superstars aren't lining up out front to take me to glamorous balls and Cinderella type gatherings. So maybe this will just get a few people thinking a little bit differently, and I'll get back to the chapters as soon as I can. Thank you.